You're listening to One Idjit's Thoughts On podcast. I'm one busy Idjit, Paul Mackey. Well, after over a month between the last episodes, it's feeling more like a regular schedule again, but there's a lot going on upcoming here in Duluth. Homegrown Music Festival spans a whole week coming up, and other than a couple single shows, we've never really done the week of shows thing. Maybe this will be the year. On top of that, Iris's school's spring musical, Back to the 80s, premieres that same week, and will obviously be going to that premiere performance. She's been getting slightly bigger roles lately, and while this is an ensemble cast, she's a lot more of a primary role in this one. And then, added to that, my workplace may need me to fill in a few shifts during that same period, and following that weekend, I'm recording a guest appearance on the Tangents podcast. So, I'm hoping to keep up a normal pace of episodes for this show, but anything can happen. Maybe I'll get another show out before all of that really hits, but meanwhile, today I'm going to look at Seeing Things. Season 1, Episode 2, Sight Unseen, originally aired September 22nd, 1981. That day of note, I'm suddenly having a bad run of luck on historic events for the shows I'm looking at, or maybe it's a good sign for the world on any given random day nothing much happens of note. So we'll look at some charts and then get on with the show. Domestic movie box office numbers for that week are number 5, Body Heat, number 4, Arthur, number 3, new entry, So Fine, number 2, Only When I Laugh, and number 1 was Mommy Dearest. The top 5 Canadian singles on the RPM chart are number 5, Theme to the Greatest American Hero, Believe It or Not, by Joey Scarberry. Note to Rockford Files listeners, that music was written by Mike Post, as Greatest American Hero was another Stephen Cannell show. Number 4 song was Start Me Up by the Rolling Stones. Number 3 was Sausalito Summer Night by Diesel. Number 2 was Urgent by Foreigner. And number 1 was the duet of Lionel Richie and Diana Ross with Endless Love. So for this episode, what is it about? At court, Louis butts heads with the paper's arts reporter who is covering a court case about sculptor Harold Roth assaulting his patron, James Sampson. Of course, Louis normally covers the courts. It appears a moot point as Roth enters a guilty plea, so no prolonged case is in the offing. Louis finds out from Redfern that the victim's wife used to be married to the sculptor who assaulted him. The assault was regarding the lady, and everyone involved decided it was better to keep it private instead of going before the court. Sampson kisses his wife goodnight, she takes a sleeping pill and retires upstairs, and he goes for a walk in his garden, where a shadowy figure assaults him with what looks like a hand scythe, and he falls dead. Louis' editor sends him to the Sampson estate after hearing of the police call. Sergeant Brown at the scene reluctantly allows Louis to be present, assuming he's silent and out of the way. Brown says the victim was hit from behind with a dull instrument sometime after 11 p.m. The butler had the night off and discovered the body in the morning. Louis talks to the butler, who denies him access to Sampson's wife. He says the Sampsons sleep separately, so that is why the wife did not notice he didn't go to bed. Louis overhears that Roth was seen leaving his house in a hurry the previous night and is unaccounted for. Louis touches the big abstract metal sculpture made up of blocky shapes. Then Louis sees Sampson falling dead in his vision. Then he sees Roth discover the body and flashes of a flame of some sort. Now that Sampson is dead and Roth appears to be on the lam, Crown Attorney Spencer is watching Redfern very closely, as she was in favor of the plea arrangement that let Roth out on the streets. She's not too happy to see Louis in her office until he tells her about his vision and how Roth looked surprised to find Sampson on the ground. Meanwhile, at the townhome, Louis arrives late to watch Jason and is dismayed to discover Marge is going out on a date with Charlie, the divorced man from down the block. Louis takes Jason out to an art studio where Louis has questions for the artist there, Tanya, whose studio overlooks Roth's studio. She says she saw him rush out late the previous night and that he wasn't with his girlfriend, who she doesn't know. The girlfriend was always in a fur coat. Louis checks in with art dealer Mr. Wenzel, who supported Roth as he emigrated from Romania. He hated, but says he did not kill, Sampson, and does not think that Roth could have done it. He seems to point to Lydia being the crux of the whole matter and the two men's conflict around her. Louis tries to get Lydia to talk about whether Roth killed her husband and Wenzel's opinion, but he's driven off by the butler. Then he has an expanded vision. After Roth discovers Samson, someone in an iron mask shoots him, and more of the flame from the first time around. As he turns to go, he sees through the window the butler kissing Lydia. Louis' editor reports the cops found Roth's truck at the airport, with a blood-stained crowbar in the back, but Louis is privately sure that Roth didn't drive his truck to the airport or anything else on account of him being dead. Louis takes art critic Latham to lunch in the paper's test kitchen with the return of Marlin the test cook. Latham says the artworks are going to go through the roof in value now that Roth is dead, and Lydia is likely to inherit or be in charge of both men's estates, as she will likely be trustee for Roth while he's in jail. Louis gets a telegram, and he's shocked by the content. Louis arrives at the townhome with the suitcase. Apparently sometime off-screen they made love, but Marge still wants to remain separated. He takes his suitcase with him to an art warehouse. We see a figure let loose a rope, and Louis narrowly dodges a hanging sculpture crashing to the floor, targeted at him. Someone runs away, and Louis tackles him. It's Wenzel. The cops arrived shortly afterwards, as they were watching the warehouse for Roth. It turns out Louis and Wenzel got identical telegrams asking them to meet Harold Roth at the warehouse. Sergeant Brown says he has it all figured. Roth and Wenzel were in it together, and Wenzel was preparing to sell some art to finance a getaway and tie up a loose end with Louis' death. At his parents' bakery, Louis comes upon his dad doing welding work and starts to piece things together from the visions. The figure in the mask, the flame. He attends the graveside memorial for Samson. The sculpture from the garden has been relocated to the cemetery. He has one more vision, clearly showing the flame is indeed a welding torch. He knocks on the sculpture before leaving, and one of the blocks sounds different from the others. Louis tries to reach Redfern, but she's left for the day. He goes back to Tanya with a photo of Lydia, and she agrees that she might be Roth's frequent late-night date. Louis goes to Redfern's home, where she is entertaining Volker, the hockey player from the first episode. Louis explains that Roth is shot dead and welded into the sculpture. Louis presents his ideas to Spencer, the Crown attorney, that Lydia and the butler both killed Roth and Samson and tried to off Louis. He wants them to get a warrant to check out the sculpture. Spencer thinks that Louis is a madman. He wants Louis kept off the case, away from his office, and away from Lydia Samson. Louis gets his dad to bring welding gear under cover of darkness to the cemetery and has him cut open the sculpture. When Roth's hand falls out, Lydia confronts them with a gun. She says her lover, the butler, doesn't know anything about the plot. She was tired of being used by both men and decided to kill them both. Louis' dad fires up the torch as a distraction, and Lydia fires off a wild shot before Louis tackles her. Louis got a front-page exclusive out of the incident. He's telling Marge about it, but she's on the way out for another date with Charlie. She runs into Redfern, who's looking for Louis, to tell him that Lydia Samson made a full confession. She tells him that Spencer wasn't happy Louis was involved in wrapping up the case either. And then Marge suddenly doesn't have a date anymore now that she saw an attractive young blonde Redfern going in to talk to Louis. They all have awkward coffee together to end the episode. What made him see it? Touching the sculpture at the crime scene, which turns out in the end to contain the body of the missing Mr. Roth, and subsequently returning to the crime scene, and then finally seeing the sculpture at the graveside. And my favorite lines...
Well, when Toronto's most prominent sculptor assaults his patron, that's art news, and I cover the arts.
Yeah, well, I don't get that, you see, because if a farmer kills his cow, they don't send somebody from the agricultural section, do they?
No need to become surreal, Louis.
And then this one, when Louis is talking to Jason about reporting.
There's no security in television reporting. Look what happened to Walter Cronkite. What you want to do is be a regular reporter.
Who is? Martha Gibson plays Louis' estranged wife, Marge. Martha Gibson is Louis del Grande's real-life wife. They wed at some point in the 1970s and are married to this day. Martha had her first screen role in 1974's Black Christmas, and later appeared on King of Kensington. I'm not sure on the chicken and egg of King of Kensington and the couple's status, whether they met on the show or whether she was on the show after their relationship was formed. Much like Louis, there isn't a ton of online information. She appeared in single roles on a variety of Canadian shows and appeared along with Louis in his film Sanity Clause, and in the Second Time Around film. Her last IMDb credit currently is Old Woman in the 2017 adaptation of Stephen King's It. Apparently, the couple resided for many years on Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia. Totally 80s category. It feels like the representation of avant-garde artists hit its peak in the 80s. The scenes with Tanya in her studio fit right in with that whole vibe, with the weird music, the lizard, and everything. Not about the 80s, but it was amusing that when Louis noticed the semi-nude art model, he took Jason's glasses off and told him to write a story about the stuffed beaver until the model took a break. Artifactoids. Prominent in both episodes so far is Toronto's Old City Hall. When Old City Hall was completed in 1899, it was the largest civil building in North America. It served all civic purposes for the city, as well as the Ontario provincial government, for 65 years, with Toronto's new City Hall housing city government since 1965. After the city government moved, the building was still used for offices for the provincial government and the provincial courts. It was the real location of provincial courts when this was shot, and in fact continued to be until most courts were moved to a new court building in 2023. The last 8 provincial courts were moved out last month, March 2025. The building was designed by architect Edward James Lennox, and after numerous cost overruns and completion delays, city councillors eliminated the plaque with the architect's name. Lennox had his stonemasons add his name, title, and the completion date in stone at every entrance to the building. The building was at risk of demolition after the construction of New City Hall in the 60s, but public outcry saved it, along with its continued use by the courts. Now that all the courts have departed, retail conversion or city museum use have been considered, and the Ontario Legislative Assembly may well take up temporary use of the building, while its permanent home begins renovations next year. What worked? It's really set up as a murder mystery, and I liked how it all came together. A listener asked me about the tone of the series, and I confess my summaries of major plot points probably sound a little bit more like a solid procedural with a twist of the Visions. But the show has plenty of quirky character moments and bits of humor as well. One character I'll point out as being solid comic relief is test cook Marlin. I do recommend you check out the show on YouTube. Like I said in the first episode, the episodes are not monetized on YouTube and don't seem to be going anywhere, as far as I can tell. This part isn't really a worked or didn't worked bit, but we've got a full opening sequence now. It'll be interesting to see how that changes through the decade. I don't really recall the opening theme on episodes that I saw back in the 80s. The closing theme is there too. It's a bit long and weird with an extended scat sequence. The episode scoring itself is a little overwrought, and I expect that to settle in after the first season. Now, what didn't work? I don't know if I understand the logistics of the murder. Lydia was really able to load Roth into the sculpture and weld it shut and left no forensic evidence or sign there were multiple bodies at the scene. I don't really need to see Louis and Marge hook up on screen, but it really felt like a scene was cut, with Louis spending the night after Marge got home from her date. If the scene didn't actually exist, they've got a show-don't-tell situation going on when Louis tries to move back in, unless that whole thing was just so they could have Louis carrying a suitcase in the warehouse. Next time is the Season 1 finale, as the first season only has 3 episodes. It's called A Charming Sight. Happy hunting! You've been listening to the One Idjit's Thoughts On podcast, produced by Paul Mackey in association with Nimlas Studios. Any short clips of audio from shows is included under fair use for commentary purposes, and copyright for that content remains with its original copyright holders. The theme song is Too Good by Jack Mangan and is used by his generous permission. One Idjit's Thoughts is produced under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. You can find more episodes of this podcast and many other fine podcasts at nimlas.org. You can contact me by emailing idjitcastpodcast@gmail.com or commenting on episodes at nimlas.org.
Let's make our own memories.
This is the first regular episode after the pilot, and there's a full vocal version of the theme inside the show during the on-screen credits. So it goes intro credit sequence, then some dialogue with top of show on-screen credits, and then back to the vocal theme with show action and on-screen credits, then the rest of the episode. I'm not sure if I've seen that anywhere else.